Hi guys, thanks for jumping on the video today. We have a special guest called Ryan Shanks from FAMatch. He's the co-founder of FAMatch. He would describe himself as the sports agent to financial advisors. Now, Ryan has a ton of experience to share with us today. He's over 20 years in financial services recruiting, and he's really got deep into the technical side of things. But a title that we're working off today is 3 Ways That Tech is Disrupting Financial Advisor Recruiting. Hi Ryan, thanks for jumping on with us today.
How you doing?
Very good, very good. I'm really interested to drill into this topic. I think tech is disrupting so many different industries, and I suppose you could argue that recruiting is quite an old industry, and it's done in a very traditional way, whether it's in financial services or not. How did you get involved in this, or how did this all come about for you?
Yeah, so I mean, if I peel it way back, I accidentally got into financial advisor recruiting because I was recruiting in technology. Mm-hmm. And when 9/11 happened, technology recruiting ceased to exist. So I said, well, gosh, I got to find another industry to recruit in. And this is the one I stumbled across. And I've been in it for now 21 years.
Wow. Okay. So you know your stuff. You know what it looks like. You know the good, the good and the bad. And so, how did things get started? You know, I get your understanding of recruitment, and I know you guys now essentially run what could be described as a tech firm. How did that kind of leap come about? Was it overnight, or did it come about gradually?
I think it came over 21 years. You indicated, earlier, like this industry, recruiting has been done in the financial advisory industry the same way forever. Right. And it's picking up a phone and it's calling and getting an advisor on a call, and it's trying to get them to share enough information and then seeing if you can't send it out to different firms. Traditional recruiters are really thinking they want to send it to the firm that's going to pay them the most, right? And so as I peeled it back, it was really twofold. One is I want to have a significant impact in an advisor's life, right, but I don't want it to be singular. I want it to be plural. And the only way you can impact thousands of financial advisors over the course of a year is if you have some type of technology that accelerates that process. Mm-hmm. So we started just backtracking on how the business is done, how I've done it for 21 years. Mm-hmm. And then, is it even possible to create technology to drive the efficiency and the automation and the scalability, and then frankly, the predictability. Mm-hmm. And so originally we started out with a couple of shovels, me and my co-founder, and we said, hey, let's go start digging and see if we can come up with something. And we feel that we have arrived at something. The marketplace continues to confirm it. Mm-hmm. So that's really what started it. Okay.
And what kind of problems did you see, though? I mean, you obviously did recruiting in the traditional way, the phone calls and everything that. Well, what problems did you see, or why did you start to think, okay, there has to be a way to kind of solve this through technology?
So when I ran a consulting firm, I was really focused on the individual advisor and the needs of that individual advisor, and then going out and evaluating firms that were a good fit for them. Mm-hmm. So very much like an advisor does with each of the clients they get in front of. Mm. I want to measure their risk. I want to determine the timeline, and I want to determine what's appropriate for them. It was no different with what we were doing with advisors, but to conduct the due diligence on the front end, to identify firms that are a good fit, to then match that with the advisor and then engage in that high touch overlay. Again, it's not scalable. So we said, let's create the technology and the digital component to drive that connectivity on the very, very front end where people aren't really needed. And then when you back it up a little more, any recruiter in this industry has a limited supply of knowledge, contracts, and access to firms. Mm-hmm. So if they get in front of an advisor, they're thinking immediately about the firms they have contracts with. They're not thinking anything about other firms in the marketplace. Right, it might be a better fit for that advisor. So with the digital platform, we can onboard thousands of firms with very unique value propositions, and their construct is completely different. And geographically, they're all over the map. Mm-hmm. And we can allow them and the advisors who have this same to drive that connectivity.
Okay, so it's like, as you say, a matching service then for the right advisor with the right firm, but actually using the detail and the data that you have to make a better match, essentially. Would that be a good description of it?
That's exactly right. We're essentially, the user comes in on their side of the fence, and then they have a set number of questions we're asking to complete that profile. We're then going in and we're grabbing that data and we're matching it through our algorithm with the data on the other side of the fence. So we're eliminating all of the wrong conversations. So think that if this were dating, you don't want to go out on 50 of the wrong dates. You'd ideally like to go on maybe 2 or 3 of the right ones and then whittle it down to the one you'd like to marry.
Right.
It's no different in this business. And so we see that advisors and firms are engaging in lots of wasted time,
right,
talking to the wrong people. And it's not personal. It's just that it's time and it's a waste of time. And we feel that their time should be better served talking to those right folks.
And so is that why, if you're an advisor and you're trying to source a new role, or if you're an advisory firm and you're trying to obviously recruit and so on, is that why they should actually care about this technology or using this as a tool?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on both sides. You know, I think the firms, in terms of what they're looking for, varies. It could be in a very small market. It could be nationwide. It could be an advisor with a certain certification. And on the advisor side, it varies as well, right, in terms of what they're looking for. And so what we're really trying to solve for is, you've reached the conclusion that you're not happy where you're currently working. You have the desire to be elsewhere to better serve your clients. Right. We're solving for that.
Right. And are advisors and advisory firms really struggling with this? Are they waking up in the morning and thinking, I need to make this recruiting process work better? Like, is it kind of really an itch that they want to scratch?
What's happened is firms have just built it into their model, right? That here's the cost, right? It's very expensive to recruit. And then what ends up happening is that it's the bigger firms who've got the balance sheet that can afford it, that engage and win. And frankly, the firms who are paying more to the recruiter and to the advisor are the ones that are winning all of the bigger advisors' business. The small and mid-tier firms can't afford to participate, so they're skipped over.
Okay. And if you were to give us kind of a what not to do list, you know, I think recruitment can be done in a lot of different ways. I've done recruiting myself, both good and bad. I've been recruited myself, both good and bad. But, you know, from an advisor or an advisory firm's point of view, you know, what's on the not to do list? How do you make a mess of this?
You know, I think what's on the not to do list for an advisor is to ensure that, first of all, think about what it is you really want, right? I tell them, come up with your must-haves and your want-to-haves, right? Be really clear about that and don't deviate from that, because it's your clients you care most about, and the dots need to connect with the firm you're talking to. And I think what is a waste of time, what the do not to me is, do not go out and engage with firms and create a bidding environment. Right. It happens all the time with traditional recruiters, with the firms. And I really encourage them to try to identify the fit outside of the economic side of it, right? Because if you do that right, you're not in the exact same situation in 5 years making another move, right? You have found the right place. So you then shift your focus to growing that business, better serving your clients, adding new clients. And then if you do all those things right, at the very, very end of it, you have an asset that's got significant value because you're not moving it every 4 or 5 years. Right. Yeah, on the firm side, I think it's being crystal clear who you are at this given moment. Right. So I was working with a firm yesterday, and they're wanting to get out on the field and put their value prop out there to attract advisors, and they're newer to the market. Right. So I said, you have to know that if you engage with an advisor with $100 million book, you're going to be competing with larger firms that are probably going to pay to win that business. Do you want to be in that bidding game? So I encourage them to figure out what your lane is, stay in your lane, and then as you have success there, that then allows you to earn the right to go upstream. Yeah, no, absolutely, which makes it gives them a lot of clarity, which is great. So on that, so what are the 3 ways that tech's actually disrupting sort of financial advisor recruiting? You obviously touched on 1 or 2 there, but what are the sort of 3 ways in your opinion? Yeah, I mean, look, I think outside of what we're trying to do, I think that what you and I are doing right now, looking at one another in 2 different countries on video. Yeah. This has been significant the last year. Right. Even this is how everyone is engaging. Even my mother uses Zoom these days. So yeah, it's, you know, when it gets to that level of adoption, then you know it's happening. Yeah. That's it. And I think this is very significant. And what it's doing is it's really shrinking how big we thought the marketplace was. Right. right? I'm not getting on a plane to fly out to meet with an advisor in Los Angeles. I'm getting on a Zoom.
Right.
And in that conversation, I'm meeting the husband, the wife, the kids, the dog, the cat. So you could argue that it's a stronger relationship you're establishing right out of the gate.
Right.
Because it's pretty vulnerable, right? To sort of invite someone into your home. That's private. The only people that I've ever invited into my home are friends, right? These are total strangers that you're letting to come in. So I think that is very significant. And I think that I've seen advisors make great strides in being open and comfortable in that environment. And then on the firm side, leveraging that same piece, they're benefiting as well. So I think this piece of it is very significant. I think social media, when you don't have the ability and you are restrained from being able to go out and be with people in person or travel to go to a conference, the alternative is that you get more engaged with social media, and that's where you engage in those conversations.
Right.
And I've seen a lot more new advisors and a lot more new firms coming into that conversation since the pandemic kicked in.
Right. Absolutely.
And then I think, a final piece on that is going to end up being virtual education. The webinars, these conferences, these things that are going on where an advisor can come in and be more of a passive, individual, right? Their identity's not known. They're not necessarily showing themselves like you and I are on video. They're coming in, viewing the content and the speakers, and they can take down notes and they can learn.
Yeah.
And that's really, that gets at the heart of it. For a financial advisor to determine that they want to make a move, before they make the move, they have questions they want answered. So some of that content can help solve for some of those answers.
Absolutely. And kind of to look at, obviously you've grown a business, and obviously it's a tech business these days, and you've done it over the last number of years. So a lot of what we talk to advisors about is growing their practice and the challenges of growing their business. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you've found in terms of growing your business in the financial services sector?
Yeah. So, again, we're all virtual. Right. In terms of having a technology platform, that's what you're doing. But it is, while I talk about social media and all the folks sort of engaging and going and consuming, the problem you also have is everyone has flocked there to inundate the advisors with information. So it then becomes, wow, how do I segment out the stuff that's real nuggets of wisdom that can be value add to me versus just the noise?
Yeah.
So it's really cutting through that when you're just all digital. And again, like I said, everybody's out there trying to advertise and promote. And so for us, it's a function of elevating above that, right? So we're trying to engage in the conversations. Just yesterday, I talked to the FPA of New York, their next advisors, and I'm talking about finding your lane. You can't come into the business as a brand new advisor and then expect that you're going to be running a $5 billion firm.
Yeah.
There's a process that you go through. But figure out your lane, figure out what you're interested and you're excited about in the business.
Yeah.
And then let that lead you and drive you. So we're trying to just add as much value as we can in education.
Yeah.
In this new, virtual norm.
New virtual post-COVID world that we all live in. Yeah.
Who would have known that we'd be here a year later and we're still behaving in a similar way?
Yeah, it's just where it's at. Doesn't matter where you live in the world, all right. And just on that then, is there any tools that you like yourself, that you would use every day as part of your business to kind of help you leverage and grow things or work more efficiently?
The two things that I use most are Slack and Trello.
Right.
So I use Slack. That's how we communicate internally. Folks inside of FAMatch, strategic advisors that we have that are adding value, partners that we have. And then Trello is where we go in and we sort of triage the product roadmap. Yeah.
Ironically, we use both of those ourselves and get great value out of them as it happens, which is great. And what's next for you, Ryan? Where do you see FAMatch going? How do you see it developing? And do you think the industry is going to kind of catch on and kind of catch up with you guys, or is it just going to change?
So, where we're going is we're going to try to be the standard. There has never been a standard, right? Financial advisor recruiting. It is always done, and it's done differently based upon whoever might be doing the recruiting.
Right.
What we are out to try to achieve is to standardize that process, to fully automate that, and do so at a fraction of the cost.
Right.
Because where the puck is going in this industry, firms will not continue to pay the big fees they're paying.
Right.
And we're already seeing some substantial firms that are pulling out of the recruiting game and essentially saying, we are no longer going to pay fees. It will be done differently. So it is where the puck is going. We do realize that we're early in terms of getting folks to adopt and engage. But what we're finding is when they come in and they see the value proposition, the transparency, the easy use of the tool, and then it's a fraction of the cost. So we've got small and mid-tier firms that are like, oh my gosh, I can afford that. I can actually realize recruiting someone that's a good fit for my firm where I've never been in the flow of that. Right. So that's really what we're trying to do. And then we're, from a product perspective, we want to evolve. Tool, if you will, that has all advisors and firms flowing through where we then get to show and dictate and think about it as a sort of a traffic cop.
Right.
We're going to dictate the traffic flow and we're going to show you the compass, and that's going to give you the navigation to the conversation you should be having. And if you're more efficient speaking with the right person sooner, your due diligence process shrinks, you make a move sooner. And ideally, you're not then looking to make another move in the future if it was the right move.
I hear that. I really like the fact that you're a disruptor. And as far as I'm concerned, most industries can be disrupted, and this one perhaps particularly needed to be disrupted. And you're making it easier, you're making it faster, and you're making it cheaper for the firms and for the advisors that are actually involved in it, which, for me is the secret recipe, really.
That's right. That's right.
That's where it's at. And do you think that as the early adopter and the disruptor, do you think there's going to be other players who are going to come in and kind of chase you and try and get stuck in? I mean, you guys have obviously really, investing in your tech, you're using AI, you're using big data, you're really, using that matching process very, very well. Do you think there's other people that will kind of catch up with that?
There are folks that are in the space that compete with us. Their value prop is different. Their technology is different. Their philosophy is different. Right. We're not coming in trying to say that we're going to solve for every bit of it. We're just coming in, we simply to opt the very front end. We believe technology should be inserted. And then it then tethers to the people involved in those conversations. So you think about it, right? You think about monster.com, think about Dice back in the day when they were the recruiting platform, sort of kind of diverse verticals. Dice was more technical. Right? They were looking to try to do something similar. It's a much bigger marketplace. This is a very, very narrow marketplace. It's very niche oriented. So for me, I feel like you have to be in the business and be a domain expert to understand it. And you have to have been engaging with advisors and firms to understand those weaknesses and some of those concerns to solve for it. And so, we built out what we built out, but we built it with feedback from the marketplace. And we are constantly going to the marketplace to get additional feedback because we're not naive that where we're going is going to be just us driving it. We want advisors and firms to help dictate that course.
Excellent. I love that. And that's kind of my approach to developing any product or business as well, is get the feedback from the market, let the market tell you what you need and adjust for that, and you'll always be on the right course. So listen, if people wanted to get in touch with you, Ryan, what's the best thing to do? Obviously, we'll put the link to your website and details in the show notes, but where's the best place to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Ryan, RYAN at FAMatch. If they want to get direct to me, FAMatch.com, that's my email address. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. That is where I'm most active on the business side. And, like I said, I mean, we are out trying to solve for this. We think it's a significant issue on all fronts.
Excellent. Listen, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it and appreciate all your insights, and obviously the best of luck with the growth of the business.
Thank you. Good to be with you.